2010. Good afternoon, and I'm Jay Bardillo, owner of Happy Harbor Comics, and I'm here today with Razor Rick Titan, former WWE and several other Federation stars, professional wrestler for 10 years, traveled around the world, wrestled many great people, and maybe not some great people, not so great people. Thanks for coming, Rick. Appreciate you coming by. And you're here today to promote your book, Wrestling with Consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the book itself is about your transition from leaving the professional wrestling industry, which is a hugely ego-driven business and very self-centered and very aggressive, to going into the real world, the normal workplace, and becoming an average person and coexisting with people. So, and I guess that was obviously such a challenging transition that you had to write a book about it. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's got to do with finishing up with things in wrestling, and 10 years of conditioning from that, you become a different person. I remember first going in, I was a nice Catholic boy going into it, very well mannered, and after a while you start to figure out that, especially as you move up in the leagues, those manners don't serve you. And being a bit more aloof with the fans and being a little more egotistical so that you can push your character out there more and have that sort of a superstar aura around you. You have to stick your chest out, walk the crowd, talk loud, and be a little pushy and aggressive and abrasive.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I know personally, and I kind of grew up, and that was in your introduction to WWE was part of my heyday as a young fan. And I remember, to me, that was kind of the first real break down the wall between the characters and the people, because obviously you coming into the WWE, assuming the identity that you did, which was the fake Razor Ramon, in my mind, I thought, wow, that to me, in a way, almost kind of said something about you. I understood Vince McMahon's reasoning for doing it, but I also kind of questioned the reasoning for the individual wrestler who assumed that role. It's like, now, and when I heard about your book, I was kind of thinking, wow, that part of that has to be in there. How did you, how were you able to reconcile, or was it even an issue for you at that time to say, I'm coming in and assuming another man's identity, basically because we're trying to screw him out of it?
Yeah, I know that was Vince's intent. For me, it was more about, I had done a parody in ECW for Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously. And so at that point, it was just fun because Stevie Richards was doing it, Umini was doing it, and it didn't seem like anything to me at all to do a Razor Ramon character that I'd been playing around with for a while. And you may have heard on CG92 or City TV in Calgary that I do some imitations of different wrestlers. And I always found it just to be a pile of fun. Vince had asked me to do it after a tryout as Rick Titan. And I said, oh, maybe, kind of, sort of. Can we call me Razor something else? And can we do something else with it? So he said that, I've got to trademark the name, the copyright to Razor Ramon. Fans want Razor Ramon back. And I thought, geez, but here's an opportunity after probably more than 6 years I busted my butt trying to get into there, having a childhood dream at 16 years of age to get into World Wrestling Federation, WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. And I get offered this opportunity for more money than I've ever made in my entire life. How can you turn it down? It might be the only chance you ever get.
Right.
And I also was thinking, trying to justify it, of course, right? I don't know if it is justifiable, but at the same time, we've got Val Kilmer and George Clooney and all these different actors playing Batman, all these different people playing Superman. I thought, and I was big into comics all my life too. So I figured that we could maybe turn this around, change it, and metamorphosize it so the fans could learn to accept it, and I could change the character, change the costume, do a whole bunch of different things until it became my own character.
So you actually really looked at it as taking on a character.
Yes.
As opposed to, it's like, well, Vince and this other gentleman had a falling out and parting of the ways, and Vince is holding on to what he believes that that identity is his, and then essentially he's passing it on to you. So it wasn't really. Did you ever have moments where you're just kind of thinking like, is this kind of sticking the knife in the back of Scott Hall? And what happens if I don't make it here and I got to go over to WCW? What are they going to think of me then? Is this going to hinder my chances of, or it was just opportunity right there and you had to take it?
it was more opportunity at that point. Like I said, 10 years of trying to get in there,
Yeah.
or dreaming of being in there. And I was working in Japan mostly at the time, so banging my head in doorways. I'm 6'6",
Yeah.
eating their food, and it was a great experience. And some of the food was fantastic. On the other hand, some of it was made for the people that lived over there, were 3/4 of my weight.
Right.
A lot of all the situations in life over there weren't built for a big guy. And I was getting a little bit tired of being over there all the time. And it was a lot of traveling and a lot of outdoor shows with no showers. All these necessities of life that you're lacking, so you're dreaming of being in the big leagues and staying in nice hotels and nice rental cars and those kind of things, plus getting an even bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
And maybe even double.
So what was it that finally kind of brought everything down? Like, and I mean, there was obviously, I know you only did the Razor Rick thing for so long. And then how long did you wrestle after that?
I went back to, Vince sent us to Memphis, Tennessee and Mexico right afterwards. And it was funny because New Yorkers, we wrestled a lot in New York. And the New Yorkers really couldn't stand us. Rocky was babyface, Rocky Maivia, the Rock.
Yeah.
And he was dancing around, he had his curly locks and everything. And we were working a match in New York one time. And we were doing our spots back and forth. And the fans were chanting, "Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks," over and over again. So then I took over and I do all these things to him, paintbrushed him a bit, hooked in an arm bar, looked out at them, and then it was Razor sucks, Razor sucks. So he couldn't do anything right. And then we went to San Diego, California, and there was a heavy Latino population out there.
Right.
So I walk out there, and after all this time before this, to backtrack a little bit, Glenn Diesel, we walk out with sunglasses, and as soon as we walked out there, we heard boos all the time in New York. And we got pretty thick-skinned after a while, and he'd walk along going, I know, we suck. And I just kind of started laughing, trying to cover it. And then we got into San Diego, and the Latinos were just cheering me coming out. It was crazy. So I couldn't do anything wrong during the matches there either. Everything I did, I got cheered for practically. It was a lot of fun. And then went back to Memphis, down at Jerry Lawler's USWA.
Yep.
And then Glenn changed into Unabomber, put a hockey mask on, son of Alden Kane. And then we went down to Mexico, worked a lot of this Razor and Diesel there. Sort of had a run there, and then I got a call from New Japan Pro Wrestling after actually going to Puerto Rico. So, as much as I really wanted to be in my opinion, the top company in the whole world, New Japan treated like a king, and the pay was great, traveling was great, they almost paid for your fantastic meals every night. They really took care of you, and they gave me a nice push while I was there too, as big time.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun for a couple of years, but I knew I was getting to the end of it. I was pretty much cranky all the time,
Yeah.
beat up and stiff and sore, and wasn't into it anymore. I didn't have a passion or a heart for it. And then I got dropped in the DDT in the heavyweight championship match with Hashimoto and cracked a couple of vertebrae in my neck. And so then my body wasn't really wanting to do it anymore, and it just sort of went from there. So then I decided I needed to change my life and change my attitude if I'm going to segue into working a normal job and being around people that weren't so cartoon-like.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So